my heart, it's so passionate about encouraging you to be intentional about connecting with your creator because he has created you for connection. So I get that deep longing that is within each of us will never be satisfied or filled by anything that we will try to fill it with. Hi, friend. I'm Susan Beth, and you are listening to the She Is podcast, where we talk about living life intentionally and about trusting that the desires you have deep within you are there for a reason. I believe that the creator of the universe put those desires within you and that they are pathways to your purpose. My desire is that this would be a space that encourages you to lean in and to hear the whispers of the divine, and that you would be reminded of things that I honestly believe you already know. That you, my friend, are here for a reason. So if you're here for more conversations in that kind of space, welcome. Let's go. Hey, friend. Thanks for being here. Can you believe we're halfway through the first month of a new year? I say, can you believe it? You know, when I think about it, I don't feel like the past few weeks have flown by. And actually, the other day I'd opened up my seasonal journal to the week that we're looking at this week in the winter journal, and was kind of surprised. It says week 4 of winter out of the 13 weeks. And I was like, wow, we've just kind of stepped inside of it. And I think it goes back to what I touched on, I believe it was in the last episode, about how last week I walked in a store and everywhere I looked was items to buy to celebrate things that are coming up in a few weeks, few months, and was just reminded of the push to always move ahead and realizing why we struggle so much to be present in the moment that we're in. And I was just reminded of that again as I looked, and I was reminded this past week is the 4th week in the winter season. You've got some time to go, so settle in. And it's been fun. I say fun. Some of you might have had some not so fun situations in some states with the winter storm that came through, the snow. But for those of you that looked like you were enjoying the season with your pictures of snow and having fun, playing around in it, then looks like you're enjoying the season. We haven't had snow here, but we have had some cold days and have had to have the heat running. We're enjoying winter here in North Florida as well. Hope you're doing well, and whatever season you're actually walking through, I hope you're finding the beauty in it in whatever way it's appearing for you. So, for a long time in our Western culture, movement and moving forward is something that has been applauded. Themes like bigger, faster, better has been a common goal for many people. And I really feel like that tide has been and is shifting. That maybe the pull and the lure of bigger, faster, better is being replaced with deeper and slower and more pure and meaningful. Because I think we've all seen evidence over and over again that bigger and faster isn't always better. And oftentimes when our mindset is shifting around something, I found even in my own life that I can tend to swing all the way to the other extreme sometimes. And I see how we can do that as a culture. Sometimes we feel like we have to pick a side that we are on. Are you team hustle and achievement, or are you team minimalist and chill and flow? Personally, I'm a both and girl in most things. And I've definitely always been passionate about things I care deeply about, which then leads me to action. But through the years, I feel like I've grown in this and I'm continuing to grow in taking confident action that comes from surrendered stillness. And that's just me. I don't know what that would look like for you because I know we're all wired differently. So how that might play out in your life is going to look different, and it should look different. Even you're getting still. I talk about getting still and connecting with God, and the outflow of our connection and relationship with God is going to look different for each of us, as it should. Not only the connection, but how that connection takes place. And the important thing is that you and I do connect with our Creator. And so I'd love to invite you today to try to let go of any preconceived ideas that you might have around what that should look like when I say getting still or connecting with your Creator. And I know that that's really hard for us to do. It's really hard for us to set aside or unload any years of programming that we've had, in an instant to maybe reframe something. But I would love for you just to open up your heart and mind to the possibility that there might be ways that God wants to connect and speak to you that you have yet to discover. Because what I'm finding as I'm getting older is there's always more. There is always more to who God is. And we're always to be growing and learning, and our relationship with God going deeper and feeling more secure in that, I believe. But it's interesting. The more we're secure and the more deeper we go, it's like the more we realize how much more there is to God that we still don't know. And we will never fully know that in this realm. It's not a frustrating thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing that this relationship is always alive and growing and pulling us forward to God, and growing us and pulling us more fully into who He created and designed each of us to be. There's just always so much more. The more time we spend fully in His presence and Him allowing Him to speak into our lives and bring clarity and speak His truth, speak the truth of all that He is into our life, it's powerful and it changes us each and every time. God is God, and He can and He does speak to each of us however and whenever He chooses. And we get a glimpse of the multitude of ways as we read through Scripture. We see God speak through dreams and burning bushes, all of these evidences that He will meet us right where we are. In each and every season of our lives, God is at work in and around us. And I think some seasons we might put God on hold. And I mean, we might not come right out and say that with our mouths, like, hey, God, I'm putting you on hold. But we do that with our actions. Our actions do say that, hey, God, we're putting you on hold. Because we might find ourselves in a busy season where we are just running full steam ahead, thinking that one day when things slow down, I'll spend more time with you, God. Or we might be in a really hard, demanding season that just feels like it's sucking the life out of us. And we honestly feel depleted in every area of our life. And we just feel like we don't have the energy for another relationship, including God. In our minds, we think of a future season where we envision easier days, where we'll be more intentional in our relationship with God. And I get it. Life can keep us feeling like we are on this endless loop, and we can fall for the lie that we don't have time now, and we live into this illusion of one day this will happen. One day I'll do this. One day I'll be more intentional about choosing this. So how do you get still when nothing is still around you? Because different seasons demand different things from us. And yet different seasons gift different graces to us. I can remember the season of being a young mom, and I can remember being at home all day with young children. And I can remember my soul desperately longing for connection with God and with another adult. And I would experience many moments of frustration of just trying to navigate life and all the things that I was feeling, and just not being able to figure out how to fit in what I felt like I needed in my life with everything that I had going on around me. You know, my heart and my soul wanted to get still, but yet nothing was still around me. There was so much movement and so much life going on around me. And I felt that. I felt that in my head. I felt that in my heart. I felt that in my body. And my soul yearned for relief from that, but I just could not figure out how to fit that in where I could get what I felt like I wanted and what I needed. And I know I've shared before at some point a conversation that my husband Ron and I had during this season. And I know for sure, because I can remember the house and I can remember the couch we were sitting on. So I know for sure that we had 4 kids, and I might have been pregnant with number 5, but I quite possibly would have had all 5 by the point of this conversation, because we were still in the same house at this time, as I remember. And I can remember us sitting it was at the end of a long day, and I don't remember if I was crying or not now, but it's very highly likely that there were tears involved. But whether there were tears or not, there was lots of emotion as I was expressing to him all of the things that I just kind of expressed. And I remember him looking back at me with a smile on his face. And I'll admit, a lot of times if I'm voicing the things I was voicing and he kind of had a smirk or a smile and some suggestion or something, I wouldn't find that real endearing. But I remember me voicing all this emotion and pain and frustration I was feeling. And I remember him looking back at me in my eyes and with this kind of smile and saying, "That's what you always wanted." And he wasn't saying it sarcastically or trying to be a smart aleck to me. He was just kind of reflecting back to me the truth and the desires of my heart that he had heard me say for many years. And he was right. It was something that I had desired and longed for years. And here I was in the midst of it, feeling overwhelmed and missing out on some of the beauty, allowing myself to miss out on some of the beauty. Because yes, life can be hectic. There was a lot going on. I mean, at that time, if there were the 5, I had 4. My last 3 were 4 and under. So there was a lot going on. There was lots of room to feel frustration and exhaustion and weariness. But there was also so much goodness and beauty. And the enemy of our souls will do his best to keep us frazzled and to miss out on the beauty and goodness that is all around us. What did I need to do? What was the way that I could live in the midst of that? How could I find stillness when nothing was still around me? I think a big change, it came when I had the realization and acknowledged that I was in a different season of life. I couldn't live. I wasn't living like I had in previous seasons. I was in a new season, a season that in previous seasons I had longed for. I was now in a new season, desiring some of the same things I had lived out in previous seasons that were not going to work in the season I was currently in. It took me coming to that place and surrendering the season I was in to God. And I talk a lot about that. Actually, in every seasonal journal, that's something that I touch on in one of the first couple of weekly focuses, because until we surrender the season that we are in to God, we are fighting and resisting all that He has for us. And we will live in frustration, and our minds will not be at peace, and our spirits will not be at peace, because we are coming up against what we were designed and created for, which creates tension in our life. That was a start for me to realize I am in a different season, so I'm going to have to live differently and look at my life differently and surrender the season to God and trust Him to lead and guide me and to show up in this season so that I can show up as the person He's called me to be. I had to come to terms with that things were not going to work in the same way as they had for me, and they were probably going to look different. So I needed to quit trying to expect certain things to play out in my life like they had previously, because life was different. I was in a different season. Maybe I wouldn't have long stretches of time to read lots of books or spend time talking to a friend over coffee for hours. I was in a different season. Maybe those extended stretches couldn't happen, but I could grab moments all throughout my day to fill my spirit and soul with what I was longing for. When I shifted that of thinking, okay, I might not can schedule these long times in, and I can quit being frustrated when I get to the end of the day, and I never was able to carve out that longer pocket of time, because previously that had worked, and I loved that time. And that's what that looked like to me. To connect with God and to spend time with Him was time away from people and things, and turning things off and having quiet and time to read and to think and to process and spend time reading scripture and books and to pray. And that was not fitting into my day. And so I was feeling frustrated. And so I wasn't doing anything because I was just frustrated. And so I wasn't finding and carving out another way of like, what does it look like in this season for me to connect with my Creator? When I let go of that idea that spending time with God had to look a certain way that it had in previous seasons for me, I then realized and experienced that the Spirit of God could speak to me as powerfully while I was working through a sink full of dishes, as I chose to intentionally connect with Him in and out of my day, that He was able to be as powerful in my life and to speak to me as He did at a church altar when I had walked forward to meet Him there. We can create an altar all throughout our day. And the most important place that we can create an altar is in our hearts. When I think back of walking to an altar growing up, or as a young adult walking to an altar, that exemplified in my heart surrender. That was me surrendering my will upon an altar. And what I've learned is I can do that in and out of my day, in and out of the moments of my day. I can create an altar and surrender my flesh, my longings, my desires my struggles, my frustrations. I can surrender and lay them up on an altar for God to meet me there. Don't allow your circumstances to lie to you and to convince you that God can't meet you right where you are. Maybe you are finding yourself in a season that is demanding work-wise, and you don't feel like you have much to give when you get to the end of your day. You don't feel like you have any extra time. You have to take the time, because for most of us, time will never come to us. There's always something willing to offer to fill our time, which is why we must be intentional about taking time to connect with God whenever and however. The when and the how, it's the least important fact or detail in this equation. The most important is the interaction and connection that takes place. God is God of seasons, and He will meet you in the moments of each and every season that you are walking through. My heart, it's so passionate about encouraging you to be intentional about connecting with your Creator, because He has created you for connection. So I get that deep longing that is within each of us will never be satisfied or filled by anything that we will try to fill it with. No career, no relationship, no house, no car, no hobby. I could go on and on. There is nothing that will satisfy or fill that hunger that you have within you. Because really what that is, that dissatisfaction and that hunger you're feeling, it's for connection with your Creator. And it's only when your spirit is fed by Him and all that He is, which is all that you need, you thrive. You are transformed and you thrive. You were created for a relationship. He created you for a relationship that is not confined to special celebrations or times during the year or special service times, but relationships that are to be cultivated throughout the moments of your day, however and whenever. And I'm passionate about this because I have experienced this life-giving transformation that comes out of being intentional about connecting with God. And I just feel like we overcomplicate things. Even with what I share with you guys about practices and rhythms that have been so life-giving to me personally, the bottom line is not my rhythms and practices. The bottom line is I want to encourage you to connect and to talk and to listen to God and to hear Him speak to you. I've talked about how these past few years I have found myself intentionally walking into the new year slower and more reflective. And reflective in the sense of of finding myself setting new goals. I'm reflective on how God is leading me, and I'm taking time to ask for clarity and for confirmation. And here's the thing, you guys. This relationship with God that we have been invited to, it isn't one-sided. We talk to Him and He talks to us in many different ways. Just this past week, I was so overwhelmed one morning by how clearly God had been speaking and directing my steps in several different ways and just encouraging me in my spirit. And I say encouraging, it was confirming and convicting and challenging me all at the same time, as only God can do. Ask and expect to receive. And it might not come like you were expecting, but keep expecting. As we're at the start of a fresh new calendar year, in all of your planning and scheduling, don't pack your schedule so full that you can't breathe or receive the fresh breath of God in your life. God will show up and meet you in and out of every season. But we need to keep our hearts open and our eyes open and our ears open to be aware of and to receive all that He has for us. I love being on this journey with you. I love walking into this new year with you, and I am believing that God is speaking to each and every one of us. And as we look to Him, I'm asking for myself and I'm asking for you that we will walk in clarity and confidence as we walk through 2024. I love you guys, and we will talk soon.
Hey, you. Thanks for listening. And if you would like to connect more, head over to SusanBeth.com and sign up, and you will be one of the first to find out about anything new. Plus, there's a special free download available just to say thanks. If something in this episode did speak to you, would you do me a favor and share it with a friend that you think it might resonate with as well? And until next time, keep showing up in the world just as God purposed you to do, because you being you is exactly what we all need.